who are given the space to grow, and parents will love us simply because we have accepted their child for whatever they are. And I think it's just a matter of time, but then the entire education community will have to come together every time, talk issues when we have a problem with either assessment procedures or accreditation. I understand all of it, but I think we first will have to feel like people that we can win. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Very remarkably, you have put forth your thoughts. Thank you so much. And I would like to quote Charles Darwin here. It is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change. So, very rightly, you pointed out, and it is very unfortunate that the children are so curious and they are so creative till the time they walk into the school. It is somewhere that we rob them of their curiosity and creativity by infusing in them the fear of being wrong. So we're all hopeful that such leaders like you, who are harbingers of change, will lead the way towards the education system that we're all aiming at. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. I would like to now invite Mr. Neeraj Bidotia, sir. So if you can have your thoughts and insights.
Well, I agree fully with my previous panelist and I rest my case. I seriously do. I mean, it was such a pleasure listening to Vinny with so much passion that she spoke about. And that is what can make a change possible. And I know Padmini, I mean, I was met you a couple of times, but this is the first time I heard you, and it was rapt attention, I can tell you that. Because you were passionate about what you were saying, because you believed in what you were saying, and it is not a rocket science really what is needed today to change our country and our people here. It is what you said. And if we had passionate teachers, passionate leaders like you, I can assure you that that is not far away. So, congratulations, Padmini, fantastic. That sets the bar rather high. And I tell you, Charles Darwin was quoted just before by Raki. Um, and it talked about how one can adapt better. It is the women folk. They are, uh, and I have worked in a school where, you know, you have both ladies and gentlemen. And gentlemen like me will always question anything the boss asks them to do and will, you know, will have their gossip sessions all over. But the ladies will go and do it. And I tell you a real example, and they will make, in the process, they will make the gentlemen also come along and do that. Because gentlemen are also important. You know, it's not a competition between the two sexes. It is actually complementing each other. And recently in my school, we had a great function for premiere of our movie, where the ladies took the charge because the movie was on Ahilyabai, but the gentlemen did work along and produce fantastic results. So, you know, as long as we keep 50% of them happy, the country will be great. But I'm very excited, despite all the challenges that the country has about, you know, in the schools, in the school system, in the education system. And I do know that bureaucracy is there. I know that regulatory and monitoring and controlling bodies are there from government. But yet, if you want to do something, there's always a challenge, but you can do it. You have to take risk and go ahead and do it. This policy has given us that chance. Uh, it is not very different from 1986, but is reinforcing what is required. It is also trying to bring back the values of our ancient times when we had the Gurukul systems and we, multidisciplinary things happened like in a boarding school today. Even in those times, even the children were to clean up their places, make their food, go and, grow a crop. All that happened So the education was complete. What we are talking in form of 21st century skills in India, but somehow, 200 years of English Raj and our fetish for white skin has really taken that away. I think Padmini said about the accent. People talk with the accent and then they are accepted easily, though they may not be intelligent enough. Yeah, that is true even today, unfortunately. So English gets the preference. I studied in a Hindi medium school, uh, and my maths and sciences uh, were nurtured there because they taught me in that language. There are a lot of people making noises about, oh my God, they are forcing this. But what are they saying? They're saying, please teach the child in the language that he is used to at home or in the local context or his mother tongue. So if your language spoken at home is English, by all means, please go and have your instructions in English. But if it is Kannada, for God's sake, you are asking now child to first learn English and then learn maths in English. So the child doesn't do well if his English is not good, but his maths may be very good. So I rest my case there. I think there is a top school in Delhi, in Lodi Gardens, I think Sardar Patel School. It uses Hindi as a medium and the student too as well as any other top school in the country. So the language issue should not be wrecked too much. I think and the policy has spoken about that you can uh, have two. So you speak to the child in English, for example, then you please repeat it in the language that the child is used to. So, can I request everybody to please? I'm getting disturbed by the. If you can mute yourself, please. Thank you, Yogeshwar. So, that is what is said. So, where is the problem? Even today, it happens in the schools. The child may not understand English, and then the teacher goes back and speaks in Hindi and few words, and the child feels, rest assured. So that's about the language. Now, why I'm so excited about it? Whatever happens is an implementation. It depends on lot of us also. It talks about access, equity, quality, affordability, and accountability as pillars on which the whole policy rests. And its whole thing is to produce good human beings. What else you want? It is not saying produce great scientists. First, you produce good human beings. And what is a good human being? They also have given a picture of that. Not that we don't know about it. Is capable of rational thought and action. Now, somebody talked about that, people go and break the, barricades and whatnot. Mind you, the oldest democracy and most advanced country that is happening because we are human beings and we are emotional beings, and there are times when we can all get emotional and do it. But the good part of that democracy was within no time it restored itself. It had the capacity to then do the right thing. So it's not that we should worry about it. Look at our Kisan Andolan. They made a mess of it on 26. They couldn't control it. But what is it now? They're responding, and they're saying, okay, they were all very sorry about it because some of them got really emotional and some of them got young blood. I don't know what happened. It went out of control. But they are there and they are standing there for their cause. They do not want to be part of that ruckus which happened at the Red Fort. So that is a good human being, a good citizen. We may make mistakes, but we come back and rebound better. So he should, as a good human being, he should be possessing compassion, empathy, courage, resilience, scientific temper. Very happy about that because this is what you need. You need scientific temper with all arts and humanities and everything equally, both. But scientific temper is going to be, if, as far as the development goes, as far as the job scenario goes, is going to be the main thing mixed with all other things because AI, Internet of Things, your data science, all going to have maths at its base, coding also maths at its base. So scientific temper is very, very important and should be done at the lower level. And then creative imagination with sound ethical moorings and values. I love this part. They're talking about values and our Indian values, Indian ethos, because those are important. You do not want a good human beings with rational thought and action, but no value system. I just gave you the example of some of those, Kisan Andolan and what happened in America. The person should be engaged, productive, contributing citizen for building equitable, inclusive, and plural society. I do know that there are political rhetoric from time to time, in one way or another, it scares us. But this is the same government which is giving you a policy which want pluralistic society. So let's give them credit for that. Why we should distrust the policy at the first instance? It is saying so, and I believe that they are meaning that as well. Um, then they want to develop flexibility. So they're giving children the chance from 9 to 12 that you do short courses. You want to do, you are very good at football, go and play football every alternate day. And now I'm not talking about boarding a school like ours. I'm talking about every other school. It promises an Anganwadi that they will recruit, train teachers of the quality that is required for that age group. So it's not that they are not talking. There's a whole chapter on it that they talk about that. They talk about the infrastructure improvement in Anganwadi. They are imagining what is happening in top schools of the country at the preschool level. So it is not, yes, the money is going to be short, and with the pandemic continuously on, it's going to be very, very difficult. But then I feel that the citizens have to rise up and they have to take up ownership. Many of them do, and come and give resources what is needed for these Anganwadis, because that's the key part for universalization of education and quality education. I also love this part. No hard separation. No hard separation. So I'm a science graduate, but I always missed the history part. Today when I look at it, I wish I was good at fine arts. But my teacher only taught me one or two drawings, and they were defined what to draw, with the sun coming peeping out of the mountains. And mountains were always, always spiky. They were never flat. But when I trekked, I found there are a lot of mountains. When you reach the peak, they're pretty flat. So that's what I learned. But today in schools, I see it. In many schools I go, that the art and the sports are getting their prominence. Mind you, our India team, which won in Australia, there are so many of them coming from very, very ordinary background, very, very ordinary background. And this is through sports. And now they are what they are. So if the policy document says that cricket is equal to physics, my goodness. I mean, for a child who is good at cricket, it is like, wow. Only thing left is now connected to the college. The admission in college also should consider that whether it is art, whether it's computer, whether it is IT, whether it is games, whether it is music, it should be valued equally as any other subject. Now, that's a hard part because, we are biased and we think that there's a hierarchy and we think the sciences are better than anything else. So multidisciplinary and holistic is very, very good across all. They're saying vocational versus academic. They're saying arts and sciences all together, humanities together. I'm okay. Now the conceptual understanding. They want to kill the tuition culture. It's not going to go away. I know that. It's deep rooted in the psyche of parents because they think that the teachers in the schools are no more teaching. They think only tuition teacher teaches. All right. The same teacher who is teaching in the school, if he charges huge sum outside, they are very happy to pay that sum and then respect the teacher, but not in the school. So if there was a law, and if I was made one day prime minister, only one law I will pass, there cannot be any tuition in the country. If you do tuition, you will be in jail immediately. I tell you, you will save so many lives. The lives, imagine yourself as a young 12, 13, 14-year-old, starting the school in the morning with tuitions, going to school, coming back, going back to tuitions. And then you say that his emotional health is not good. How can that be? At that age, he should be running. He should be on the field. He should be going and fighting with his classmates. Have a fight. Learn how to deal with that fight. All we have done that. Those stories never reached home. Today, what happens? The child has a little fight. Little fight. Nobody touched anybody. Both sides' parents are in the school. Every day it happens because the child hasn't got that emotional well-being. So if you allow the child to have that time, you have to kill the tuition. And it is possible, not by law alone, it is possible this policy, if it is uh, completely followed, it is saying content should be reduced and focus on core essentials. When you are examining, when you are taking a test, please test him, assess him for learning, not off, for learning. So it is an ongoing process of teaching and learning and the improvement of the process. So if we can, as an educational community and leaders, ensure that this policy at least is used well in our schools, because this is the policy we are supposed to follow as a nation, then I think our children will be very eternally grateful, and the parents finally will realize the value of our teachers in the school, because they are as qualified, as experienced, maybe more, and they impart values at the same time as well. So now life skill, teamwork, communication, collaboration. I'm sorry, we keep talking about it. It doesn't come through books. It doesn't come through classroom situation. It comes when the child is given experiential learning, when the child is debating, when the child is on the stage, when the child is trekking, when the child is on the field, when the child is having an argument with his teacher, when he's debating on a point, not giving up. All this happens. So it's not going to happen sitting in the classroom. And I'm happy once again that the policy talks about this. I hope that we all use it. Now we talk about 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. I think, and also a preparatory class before class 1 year. They want 2 years in the foundation stage, which is before entering a primary school. It is equal to what happens in England. They have kind of what you call UKG here. That's a preparatory class, then class 1. At age 6, the child goes there. So this is taken from there, and class 9 to 12th as high school is taken from America. And I think they are talking about that 9 to 12th as a single unit, but you can take a break at 10th, go out, do short courses. So I think, again, I hope that it doesn't get killed like CCE was by the teaching community, by the leaders in the teaching community, because India is a huge country. The implementation, again, is going to be a huge issue. So we need to produce more leaders in our schools who can go and lead various kinds of school, so that this policy is used well and implemented well. I think money is there with the government. Its use is something which we have to worry about. Look at Delhi government success story about schooling. Within no time, they've just done 5 or 6 years, right? Within no time, they have given prototype what to do in public school system. Public school systems have to improve. Private schools, we are raising fees and there is so much hue and cry. We need fees to pay our teachers. We need fees to look after our buildings and everything, because we don't get it from government. So it's always going to be a challenge. And now the fees have gone up because the demands of the times and also of the parents is very, very high. Their expectations are high. So the price is high. Price is high like IPL. All the vices have come in the cricket. It wasn't there before. Money comes in, problems come. So has happened in otherwise previously, you won't hear parents the way we have heard it in the pandemic. I mean, no school, no fees and what not has happened. But that will go away if our public school system is great. And that's where I think the leadership come. My sister was principal in a UP senior secondary school, and I know the challenges that she has, but still she made little dent in the system wherever she was. You don't have to worry about, I am principal Delhi College, I should not focus on everybody else around me. I am responsible for doing what I can within 118 acres that I have and the people that I'm connected with. And that is how every principal, given the autonomy, what has happened in Delhi, it can happen in public education system as well. That is where we have to worry about, and that is where the whole of the, what should I say, our future lies if public school system does well. Thank you very much. If I've taken more than what I have, but these guys set the bar very, very high, very high. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable insights. And very rightly, you pointed in this direction that it is high time that we do away with the industrial model of education system where every product needs to go through the same set of standards of quality. And we'll have to embrace the new paradigm of agricultural system of education where the farmer just creates an environment conducive to growth, and it is up to every sapling to grow and nurture. Thank you so much, sir, for your thoughts. I would now invite Madam Dharani Upadhyay. Dharani Upadhyay ji, can we have you?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes. Pretty much sure. Yes, I was enjoying the conversations made by all the panelists, and I so enjoy the conversations when they're all driven by passion, and where you can really see that people are driving these things because they see a purpose in everything that they do, and that so comes across, when you hear these people, and thoroughly enjoyed it. I must tell you that, like Mrs. Samba Sivam said about how we need to train the heart more as much as we are focusing on the head. I'm a big proponent of the art, and the role of art in music in a child's overall holistic development. I totally believe, the heart is always ignored and the head receives all the attention. And we are such a left brain driven society. We are all more focused on the academic outcomes. The physical education, the art grades, etc., are always looked up upon as miscellaneous grades, which probably, even if they weren't mentioned, I could least care about it. But if the math score or the social sciences score was not to the required level, I would be very concerned as a parent. And I think, as educators, we all really, really need to change this mindset in our society. It is driven by our society where everybody believes that an individual who succeeds, or a child who succeeds academically, is the person who becomes successful in society as he or she grows to become an independent individual contributing to the society. And I totally don't agree with this. And along with that, we have to also, while we make our child adaptable, child who's completely empowered with values and is a lifelong learner, I think we also need to teach our children how to be happy. I think what we forget to teach them all through this is how to find your happiness. There are such interesting data points that you see that are available out there, that 80% of the people working in the organized sector, when a feedback was taken in an economy like the US, said that they were not happy doing what they did. And, they really despised their job. Now, why do you think such things happen? Such things happen because I never got to do what I really wanted to do. I'm doing something which is so mandatory, so monotonous, so something that just does not connect with me as an individual. And hence, I'm stuck in a job because I need to make a livelihood, and I have to drag myself out of the bed every day to make it to work. And that is the reason why stress builds up. You have, you know, um, very antisocial elements in the society. That is where you see suicides, you will see young people feeling so frustrated so soon. These are the outcomes because we haven't taught our young ones how to pursue something that you love to do, not something that is what everybody else is doing. You are different, you are individualistic, you are not the same as the 39 other students in your class, and you can follow your heart. It is not regarded, it is not looked upon, it is not encouraged, and I think that is something that we need to change as a society, and that's where arts plays a very, very important role. Music plays a very important role. I can for sure tell you all here who are here in this forum, how many of you listen to music and feel terribly down, or who do not like music? We, how many of you? None of you, right? You all love music. It's about how can we bring that element of joy, how can we introduce this element of joy in our children's life. When I talk to parents and educators about music, they say, हाँ ठीक है आप सिखाओ पर musician थोड़े ना बनाना है उनको. And that's true, we don't have to make them musicians, but we have to give them that exposure. I always tell parents that, is your child going to become a mathematician that you're so obsessed about the child scoring full marks every term? No, but it's about his liking, it's about his passion, it's about her desire to learn and excel at something that they really love to do, and give them that exposure, give them that way out. If it is football, let them play soccer. If it is painting, let them paint. If it is dramatics, let them show their skill set in that. And if it's music, let them expose themselves to music. Music has such a powerful impact on human mind and body. It's unbelievable. I think it has been written in our scriptures, it's been there in our culture, it's been a part of our ancient education system. But today we treat, for us in Indian, in India, unfortunately, music is limited to Bollywood music more so. मतलब म्यूजिक है तो बॉलीवुड है, बट देयर इज सो मच मोर टू इट. It can really, the whole left brain right brain connection that music bridges, it makes you more sober, brings in that discipline and diligence in you as an individual, makes you a great human being, helps you emote, helps you express, and I can go on with the benefits that it brings about. Why are we so obsessed about becoming academically so superior and emotionally not paying that much attention, whereas it's the emotion which is going to shape the persona of the child. It is the emotion which is going to guide the individual on how to deal in real life situations, and whether he's going to make it or break it is the emotion that is going to carry the individual through in the real life situation. And that is the most important part of a child's personality that we just do not pay attention to, right? That's where I think NEPs, I'm so glad that they've made this mention of making arts an integrated part of the whole education system. It should not be an extracurricular activity. You must give that time and regard to this form and encourage children to pursue it, is what makes me feel really, really happy about this policy. And I really hope, every educator at least makes an effort to bring this through, because I totally believe unless you are, emotionally balanced, while intellect can be gained over a period of time, and you will constantly gain intellect with exposure, learning, interaction, with your environment. Emotion is something that you have to constantly work upon yourself and adapt, and we need to train our children to do that. We don't train our children to do that, and that's the reason why we see the rising cases of depressions, in our society, which is so young, and we see our young adults feeling so sad and left out in the overall journey. Having said that, I think the other very beautiful point that General Kulkarni also made, which I want to make a reference to, is about creating an education system and drawing upon the point that Mrs. Samavisam also said that, you need role models in life. You need role models who inspire these young ones. I want to be like this person. I want to be like her. Like when Mrs. Padmani, you were speaking, I felt so inspired by everything that you said and everything that you narrated, because I thought that came straight from your heart. How do we create more inspirational role models like that in our society, who you will find children choosing education as their career if they see such inspirational educators in front of them? I will love math if I see a fantastic math teacher who teaches me math as if she says it and I figure it out and I understand it and I just love to do the way she expresses it to me. That is what creates love for a particular subject in the heart and the mind of a child. How do you bring these educators, how do you create this education system? It's so important to do that, and then create this culture of following your heart, following what you love to do, follow your passion, follow your purpose. Because when you do these things is when you become successful. And success is not about which car, how much money, the size of the home that I live in, but it is about how do I feel every day at the end of the day. How do I go home and feel happy and relaxed with everything that I have? How do we teach that to our children? Today, being happy is about having a BMW, a 4-bedroom hall kitchen in an upmarket location, and so on and so forth. It's not about having a fantastic family, bonding with your cousins, having a great time, playing soccer with your friends, listening to great music, playing an instrument. That's what happiness is all about, right? How do we impart these value systems to our children? I think that will change the texture of our society. I think that will change, our country, and that will differentiate us because that is what who we are. And all these differences of who is what will go away when we are all focused on these more, important things of our life. And I think that's where arts and culture play such an important role, in a child's life while while they're growing up. And I believe that should be implemented with as much passion, and with a can-do attitude. Even if you are low on budgets, low on space, you don't have that much of buy-in and support from your parents, I think as leaders, you must make it your priority to make this access possible for your students, because remember, this is the gift that you're giving them for life. They will never forget this. They'll always remember this emotion, and they will always thank you for giving this, evergreen gift for them for the rest of their life. That's what I believe in. That's what I love about what we do. And I really think this is what will bring about a massive, massive change in our society. And we must all, as educators, I totally agree, Ms. Dubey. Music, dance, and arts energizes, gives us energy, gives us passion, gives us positivity. And there's so much of scientific research about it. You know that when you play a musical instrument, or when you meditate, you have this chemical called dopamine, which is released in your brain, which makes you feel happy and makes you feel elevated. So it's not just about our emotion, there is real science behind it. Then why don't we maximize that? Why don't we make our mission to make our children happy rather than make our children A plus grade learners? That's what I think if all the children in our schools are happy at the end of the day, that's a job well done. With that, thank you very much, and I hand it over back to you, Mrs. Verma.
Thank you so much, Dharini ji. And see, we've always been, as we were discussing about the deep-rooted perception of the society regarding the hierarchy of streams. So even art has somewhere seen such a, it has been looked down upon. So, but then, yes, with NEP, the art integration that we're talking about, that is the right step towards a positive change. And we're all hopeful that the students are going to pick up the music, dance, and other art forms of their choice. And definitely it's going to help bring creativity into their minds, make them happy at the end of the day, as you had pointed out. Thank you so much for your thoughts. I now invite Mr. Jaswinder Singh for his thoughts and insights.
Thank you, Rakhi ji. End of the session, far end, but I'll try to do my best. I will pick up from where Dharini left. One very important thing that you brought up is you generally don't like a subject. You love the teacher, and that is why you like the subject. Okay, I always see we are an tech company. We do a lot of language program implementations. We do a lot of teacher training. This is one thing I always tell them: make your kids love you, and don't have to teach them. They don't have to learn anything, and that actually works to a great extent. So that's one thing that I take up from where you left, Darini. Now my point comes down to this place is okay. We were talking about vocational training. Why vocational training? Why not? I'll tell you why. Vocational training, as a part of us growing up, actually gets these kids to go and work with somebody, and there is dignity of labor. What our country today needs is dignity of labor. You know why a lot of people don't go and do blue collar jobs? Because there's no dignity. You ask for one chartered accountant, you'll get five of them. You ask for one plumber, you'll not find him. The carpenter almost makes what an engineer makes through. Why not? Look at the great economies. Look at UK. A carpenter will have the best of life. Why not in our country? Why is it that everybody wants to be an engineer, a doctor, and a chartered accountant, and now a cricketer? We can have things go. So that's something very, very important. Our kids should go work with these people, understand what it takes to do something of that sort, and that is where they will start respecting. Compassion is something that we have lost between the divide between I mean the rich and the poor, the good and whatever we call. That's where we have lost our roots. What was taught during the Gurukula ages? Krishna and Sudama were taught together. That is important. So what I think is when they bring in these 2 points of 50 days of vocational training or 10 days of bagless, all this is good. Whoso has thought of this, hats off to that person. One important thing. Second thing coming on to that is one more thing comes out of this. There was a study done by MIT US. What they did was they actually found out that which part of our body uses the brain the maximum. So if you were supposed to redraw the human body, the biggest part of the body, what would it be? It will be our hands, right? So when you go and work with the hands, the brain develops better. So that's important. We need to do those things with our own hands. So when you're working as, suppose you are working on a piece of wood, or you're painting, or you're doing something of that sort, you actually, the brain works better. That in, if you're, drumming or you playing a guitar, that works. So at that age, it is important that it is brought in. So that's about things which are beyond my focus area. But let me come back to language where we work. Okay, so the most important thing is teaching using local language and mother tongue. I salute this. I second this. Though I am from a company which promotes English language learning and working on it, but understand one thing. At that age, you know what we are talking about? At that age, when the child is struggling to understand what English is, we are teaching them the other important foundation things. How will that work? Actually, let's understand it is a proved fact that a child till the age of 8 can acquire 5 languages. You can have multiple languages. Let them have the 3 language system is good. Teach them using the local language. Ask them to acquire a classical language and a foreign language. So English falls under foreign language. And yes, because the world is becoming smaller and smaller, you cannot do away with that. But that doesn't mean that your child cannot acquire any other language. Padmini ma'am, I understand since you are from Stella Maris, you're from Chennai. My wife studied there, so that's how I know. But Tamil is one of those classical languages, the oldest language in the world. Look at Sanskrit. Okay, the most organized language. We as a company, we are the first company in the world to come up with a Sanskrit language lab, already implemented in 475 Kendriya Vidyalayas doing it across. But when we are developing that, we realize that even if there's the spelling of a word, there's a reason. Letter is that. There's a formula to that. And if we acquire these classical languages, there's a reason they were, I mean, uh, they are the way they are because that is what the rishis found. And today, if you acquire a classical language, you can code better, you can think better, you become logical. It is character of a person. Am I right? It is not only communication. You can communicate using your hands also. But language is a character of a person. If a child acquires any language properly, the characters become stronger. If you know a language properly, you are a more, with more culture. So that's what we need to prove. Yes, we should not forget that English is required because that's the language of the world. Local language is required because that is in the foundation year. Years the child is supposed to understand concepts better. And the third language, classical language, will let us know where our deep roots are. The Gurukula system was excellent. This NEP has a lot of things which have come up from the Gurukula system. Right? So that's something that we promote. And there's one important thing. If a child speaks 3 or more languages, the brain develops better. If you can make a sentence with inputs from 3 languages, you are logical. You don't have to prove logic. So that is what has to work. So if we really want our kids to do better, the 3 language system is fantastic and we need to work onto that. Coming on to an important point, when I've been talking to a lot of teachers, a lot of educators, a lot of education leaders, they've always been talking about such a lot of burden. If you are talking about language, how do we get 3 languages and one is not possible? I said that is possible. Bring in technology. Using technology, you can acquire more languages. The only thing is, you need to communicate with somebody. To know a language through technology, then go have peer group discussions, peer group talking and whatever. So you get that. So that is where it works. Coming on to the next important part, or where NEP has, what a lot of people think where there's going to be problem is, one thing is, we talked about teachers. Yes, we need to train our teachers. Yes, but look at the burden that these teachers have. I have always been giving this example. Okay, let's look at our teachers. Okay, we are almost the same age, somewhere between whatever. Okay, our teachers, the curriculum used to change every decade, 10 years. Now it changes every year. But the teacher still has a husband, has kids, has a father in law and a mother in law and household work to do because lady, right? Where will she find the time? And still the same 24 hours. So the answer is technology. So what I say is, when we want to teach our teachers, rather than just teaching them what to teach, how to teach them how to use technology. I'm not saying teach them how to code, but teach them how to find what and where. Everything is there. The only thing is you need to get it. And mind well, one a very important thing. One of the speakers, earlier speakers said that, the teachers should know more than the kids because the kids are smarter. Teachers will never be able to, come up to their pace. Okay. So we should stop being people who tell them what to do. We have to show them what to do or let them think what to do. Facilitators is the right word. Teachers can only be facilitators because today's young mind is smarter and has got more access to more information than what we as teachers have. So what we need to do is develop our teachers, get them on the right track, teach them how to find out things. It is okay to say, I don't know this, I'll let you know tomorrow. Okay. See, because the tomorrow's class has to be the flipped class. It cannot be the current class that today study this. No, you tell them tomorrow this is what I'm going to do and get me 10 lines. The kids will straight go to Google. Unfortunately, they will not find 10 lines. They'll not find 10 sentences. They'll find 10,000 of those. And then they need to work on them, get them, and then come and discuss. So classroom has to be a discussion place. Right, Dharini? That's where it has to work. So what we need to do is to get teachers to be able to work with these minds. These kids are very smart. So we need to work onto that. And getting onto what we need to work is, these are important things. We need to teach our teachers to actually acquire 21st century skill traits. They need to understand what is required. They need not be skilled according to that. It's late. But let teachers be there. But the only thing is, we need to get that respect for teachers, and they themselves will start working onto that. So this is what I have to say on my points. Everything is a language, very important. All of the subjects, very important. But everything has to be in there. You can't say, like, I suppose one of these speakers said, I think Padmini ma'am, you said, you can't have half of me. Yeah, because I can't be good at everything. But you need to know everything. Tomorrow's world, everything will be on your fingertips. You should know how to find it and you should know what is good and what is not, what is correct, what is wrong, what is fake, what is not fake. And that's where we will have the 21st century kids, and that will make the world happier. Of course, the other things are required. So over to you, Raki ma'am. I didn't want to take much of time because we are already at 5, and I think you've got your question sessions yet to be taken up. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Singh, for adding more clarity and perspective to languages, because this has been one aspect of MEP which has been most talked about and has been debated a lot about. Thank you, sir, for your insights. I would now want to invite Mr. Rajul Pratap to share with us the questions that we've received from our participants. And I would request the speakers to kindly, share your views.
Thank you, Rakhi ma'am, and I again thank you all the key speakers, Kulkarni sir, Neeraj sir, Padmani ma'am, Dharni ma'am, Jaswinder sir, and Rakhi ma'am for making this 100th session truly special. And, after listening to you all, I'm just feeling that we did one thing wrong. We did not put a cost on the ticket, the entry ticket. There's so many views I'm getting from the participant that this is such a, you know, informed session, and a lot of people want to join this. So with this, I would request Kulkarni sir, if I may present the first question to you.
Yes,
This
please.
has, this has come from Ms. Alka Gupta. Alka ji is principal with Vinayak Global School, Palwal, Faridabad. The question says, what challenges you perceive while implementing NEP in rural India? Kulkarni sir.
Yes, the first challenge is internet access. The first outreach has to only happen if there is access. If there's internet access, we can start talking further. Otherwise, we will never catch up. Number one. Number two, we must have access to the best teaching material which is available. It is not possible for those teachers to curate it. It is required to be done either by a central body or by schools which are better endowed, who reach out and provide this. And I'm not talking about those who do it commercially, who do it because they would like to transfer what they have developed or gained themselves and share it openly and willingly, in a gesture of passing on and sharing the thing they have acquired. The third thing that is needed is that in rural India is not just all villages and with mud huts and all. Please, today even rural India has got they're all becoming like mini townships gradually. Urbanization is a huge phenomenon even in the rural tier 3, tier 4 cities. So therefore, it's very important to create uh, points of excellence. Like yesterday, budget said they will open up so many kind of schools or they'll support 15,000 schools. You need to identify which are the areas where these should come up. And to them, willingly and happily, so like say schools like ours would like to reach out and create an academic bank, cultural co-curricular bank, for those students. And if it's not possible for them to come physically, which is unlikely, we are very open to having online sessions for them. Why are you talking about rural India? I mean, during the pandemic, we have been conducting sessions on PBL, even with schools in NCR. You mentioned Faridabad. In Faridabad also, with some schools, our teams of teachers have been conducting things like PBL. We have a museum which we've incorporated into our curriculum. So object-based learning and virtual using of virtual museums and things like that are being done. So we are lucky. We have got certain better facilities and better capacity, but we are more than happy to pass it on. But there has to be a lack of interference, and they all come back to autonomy. Those teachers there should be allowed to do what they want. This year there's a global prize which is given out by the James Group, the Worky Group in Dubai every year. There's a teacher from Maharashtra called Ranjit Singh Disale, right? He's won this prize. He's not from any of the fancy cities or fancy schools. So outreach is possible, right? But as I said, there has to be, and this has to be provided by the government, a steady, reliable, high quality, high capacity internet penetration to the remotest parts of the country. Then we can do all the rest.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir. I'll come back to you. Now, I would request Padmani ma'am. Padmani ma'am, the question has come from Shilpa Virmani ji. She's principal. She's a teacher with Delhi College Indore. Shilpa ji's question says, how far does the policy build on creativity among learners?
Okay. I think it very clearly supports creativity. What is creativity is when we remove conforming, aspects of subjects. Because the problem today that we are talking about rote is only because we have one question and an expected answer is one. Even in simple things like odd one out, there are people who expect a particular answer because, but if you don't have a question which says mark the odd one and write your reasons for it, then I'm making them conform to my thought when I constructed a question. I think creativity will not, it is not about finding new things. It's about also having the basic energy to go wrong, to explore without feeling or having the fear of being right in a way. Like, for example, I think Mr. Singh was very clear when he was talking about language and everything. Where take a simple thing aspect such as language. Why do we stump creativity is when a child is starting to answer, and if the line that has been initiated is lacking a preposition or an article or a beginning is not okay, we stump them immediately. We don't allow them to run through the process, look for the essence of the answer, and then say, well, this is that. In fact, the first answer, the first, creativity cannot come. We are not asking because at a level of class 1 or a KG, or even at class 2, that is the point where creativity is high. They dream, their level of fantasy is so high because they do not have basic facts to understand whether something is concrete or abstract. But because we feel very powerful in those classes as teachers, we tell them, no, that is not right. In fact, we must engage with them. For example, a very simple thing in KG, if you see, a child would leave an object elsewhere and then say, ma'am, I can't find it. And the first question most teachers would ask is, where did you leave it? We are not seizing an opportunity to ask, okay, so you have left something somewhere. Shall we just go back and track? Where was I standing prior? Did I walk with somebody? We don't engage with them to see a solution. We want to give them a solution if we have one. And if we don't have one, we will tell them something else. So the point is, creativity is not always about finding the unknown from your standpoint of view. Creativity is also finding something from the standpoint view of the student. And therefore, if they draw sets of wings, we can maybe engage with them as to why do we say there are only two pairs in an insect? And maybe we could catch one and show them. But what we think creation is, even for most people, is I have to make something, synthesize something new. But that is not the case. You tell a fable, you tell a fairy tale, you can ask, how would you end it? What other attributes would you have? Would you want the character to have? So that will expand imagination. That will also give them the feeling that they can go ahead and do something and also stretch towards a level which is not the beaten track. The fear of the unknown and the fear to be accepted as right is what stumps creativity. And because of our own limitedness, we limit children because we are also afraid to say, I don't know beyond that. I think the best thing that Mr. Singh said today was, we should always say, I mean, we're both going to learn together. If you know something better, I'm willing to learn with you. It has two things there then. A teacher is not an all-knowing person. A teacher is a very simple person who has learned certain things prior, but she is willing to learn with you. And the second biggest learning that you give a child is, it's all right not to be right all the time, which is what stops us from learning. Why don't we share? We have all been listening to a lot of people saying, we must share our best practices. Why don't we share, you tell me? Is because when I share with an open mind, how am I going to be received by another adult? Most probably they will say, I'm doing it either way, or they would find holes in it, errors in it. So I don't want to expose myself. So the basic thing is, unless there is unless there is a need to learn from each other, without being critical, but giving a very positive feedback, And we don't have to be right all the time. Why? Because we are teachers, we should be right all the time. It is about learning to stand up and say, yeah, I think I thought about it wrong. It gives a larger strength within a person. And therefore, I have the guts and the courage tomorrow to come to you and try and be creative also. So let's not put creative in an aspect where we are saying they are actually inventing something. It is discovery also. And that's the key. But when we both are learning together, there's an air of ease amongst us. And finally, I'll just end with this saying mostly we say the children are a clay and they have to be molded. Who are we to mold them in any particular shape? Rather, we can say we are like sculptors. We just remove certain chips and allow them to find their own individuality. Okay, so
Can I
that
add
I
up
believe.
one thing? Can I add up one thing, ma'am?
Yeah.
Chanakya once said, Chanakya, who is the greatest teacher, he once said, who is a teacher? A teacher is a person who lets the learner knows that I know as much as you know, let's learn together. That's
That's
what a
it.
teacher has to be. So I mean we'll
Precisely.
have to get Chanakyas into our world, ma'am.
Yes. Yes.
Right, right. And thank you, Padmani ma'am. And you talked about why do we fear sharing things, but we are very glad that you all accepted our request to join us today to share your wisdom and your perspective. So with this, I would request Neeraj sir, if I may present this question to you. This has come from Ms. Vibha Kapoor. Vibhaji is a middle school dean of academics with Belem Girls School, Dehradun. The question says, what are the pertinent changes from the previous policies do you find in this policy? And this is also a very regular question. A lot of participants have asked this question during our last sessions. So if you can highlight two, three key challenges, Neeraj sir.
I think, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, Saul. I have spoken about it. ECCE, I mean, that's the emphasis is there, and now they have taken it as a part of the school system. It's not Anganwadi separately and children come and go, what happens? So now it's become part of it. And in fact, I see that as a huge challenge for those very high-end preschool. I don't know what they will do because they were just, most of them were business schools. I'm sorry to say that for commercial reasons. And they put in a lot of infrastructure and they're doing very well. Now they are part of the school. So either they have the continuity up to class 12, otherwise they have to close down or have up to elementary school. So there is a huge challenge with that. But the focus has come on that. Then there is this, multidisciplinary and holistic approach. So a good human being has to be well-rounded. For that, he or she needs to learn subject across all sorts of streams, if I may say, or arts, humanities, sports, vocational, academic, whatever you name them to understand. But it is multidisciplinary. This has to be learned all together in an integrated fashion. Unlike you have silos, physics, chemistry, maths, and you have commerce with your accountancy, whether with or without maths, and then humanities. Um, so there is this within the academic subject, but the important thing is now they are talking about sports, arts, vocational getting the equal importance. Another thing they talk about is classes 6 to 8, middle school. There will be a craft or something has to be learned by the child for the entire year. Now, I do know that schools like ours, they have this, but the policy is not for only us, policy is for the entire country, and where there's hardly anything like that happening. So it's a very good change for that matter. Um, then the holistic part is again that in the school public education system you will get debate, music, art, and other things happening. They will have societies and clubs, so the children will get chance or their potential could come up or be discovered. And I think the problem in they're going to be the sports has already got its value in terms of commercial value as well. You have a lot of examples in cricket, kabaddi, athletics, everywhere. But the problem is going to be art and music. And one of the co-panelists talked about the music and art, and I, today being a science graduate, I say that is something which always enjoyed music, but really did not have the opportunity in the school to learn, because the boys don't learn music, right? I'm talking of 60s and 70s. That was a taboo. Even today, you won't believe there are top schools where instruments are done by the boys, singing is done by the girls. These are silos. I'm sorry, then to, so it's a great thing that these things are given equal importance. Then there is this change from 10 plus 2 plus 3 to you have 5 plus 3 plus 5 plus 4. I've briefly spoken earlier about that, that you have foundational stage with 2 years of Anganwadi type of situation or preschool. Then you have 3 years preparatory and classes 1 and 2, where you get, by that time you're ready to go class 3. You have learned numeracy, basic operations, and you know reading and writing in whatever language that you have. And then you have 3 years where a bit of formal education comes in, yet it is mostly play method. Then 6 to 8, the subjects come in, and 9 to 12, you have expert, special subjects you want to go in. And also there is multidisciplinary there, so you can choose. You can do short duration courses that maybe somebody who is not as good in science subjects may want to do a part course in physics, chemistry, bio. It can do that. So that's a great
Right.
flexibility provided in that. Equity and inclusion they are talking about from different parts. It requires a lot of money. Teacher they have put at the heart of learning, and for that there are, they said that teachers should be given incentives. Teachers should get the respect that they deserve, and there should be highest, like the guru of Gurukul. That kind of vision is for the teacher. I'm
Right,
very
sir.
excited about that, as long as teacher take it seriously and do what is required to be done by a guru. I think that will happen. Last, I'll say under 2 points quickly. Regulatory system, they want it light and tight. I don't know if they will ever achieve it. They want, rather than one department doing everything, including the academic, including the monitoring, including the policy making, and looking after the operation. There's a department of school education. They want that separated now in 4 different parts. And last, the National Institute of Open Schooling, open and distance schooling will come at class 3, class 5, and 8 as well. It is a great thing for those who have learning difficulties, or those who may not go to a regular school. So that's a great thing coming in. What I don't like about is the exams at 3, 5, 8 centrally done. It is a negative thing in my opinion. It will enhance competition within schools, and with that will come all the wrong things that are part of the education system. So I hope I'm able to give you some idea about it. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Neeraj sir. And with this, I would request Jaswinder sir, if I may present this question to you. And Jaswinder ji, this has been a very, very regular question. A lot of people, in fact, a lot of speakers in today's session also talked about it. Many people believe with the implementation of NEP, we are going to see English will get diluted as a language. So, what are your assessment? How do you see English as a language in academics in coming time?
Rajulji, let's understand one thing. What the government is saying is that in the foundation years, the core concepts, foundation things, they have to be explained in their local language or the mother tongue or the regional language. Nowhere have they said that English should not be taught. One. Second, please understand, it is a suggestion. Schools can still deliver training or sessions or teaching in English if they want. Okay. Third thing is there, as I earlier told you, that a child can acquire up to 5 language till the age of 8. We are talking about just 2 or 3. So that is not going to be a problem. One very important thing, like one of the panelists earlier said, that we have a huge demon in the form of tuition classes and all that. That is very much into a system. Similarly, English is there into our systems. I don't think parents are going to say that, okay, we do not want to have English as a subject or English as a language to be taken up. One more important thing is the world is becoming smaller and smaller. You need to connect with the outside world. There are more jobs outside India. If we are going to be the factory of the world, the back office of the world, the service center of the world, we need to talk the world's language, and that is English. So that is definitely going to be there. So I don't think that is ever going to be a problem. In fact, overall languages will have more focus. You know, see, you don't have to teach them Hindi. Suppose we're talking about North Indian state, or you don't have to teach them Tamil when they're there, because that language they already know before they come to school. So they can focus on English also, but they should teach the core subjects in the foundation years in the local language. So one, the child's pressure is less, and then let him acquire English in a nice way, in a way where he loves it or she loves it or they like getting it. So what the whole thing is, in fact, what I think or what I've seen in the last 2 months when I'm talking to educators, they are demanding more and more language solutions when it comes to English. Okay, but important thing, understand, we need to make textbooks available in those things. Language, the government will be able to do it, but where will they get Google in Tamil or in Punjabi or in Gujarati or in Hindi? So somewhere they have to work on that. Sir also said that he studied in an Hindi medium school and now he heads an English medium, right? So there is no such thing that English is going to lose its shine or things like that. It is going to be there, and the only thing is local languages will become strong. India has a lot of local languages, a lot of scriptures, a lot of information, a lot of knowledge is there. At least that can be decoded. So that is how it should be taken up.
Right, right. So that could be a question perhaps from an English teacher. So now you have given them a right. So the English is going to get further strong. It's not going to get diluted. So thank you, Jaswinder ji. With this, we'll end the question part here. I would request all our speakers before we wind up the session, if we can have your concluding remarks. While I have one request that while sharing your concluding remark, we have established one very interesting practice that also please share one idea, one thought, one suggestion which you would like to implement if you get a chance to become Minister of Education of our country. I know you have many ideas, many suggestions which you would like to implement as priority, but just one priority which you would like to implement at any cost. So I'll come to people randomly. So I'll start with Jaswinder sir only. And Jaswinder sir, if I may begin with you, uh, if but your concluding remark and your idea, your thought, if you become Minister of Education.
Okay, so my concluding point would be, or remark would be, the policy makers have done their work. Let's do our work. Let's give them a thumbs up. Let's put all that we have. We need not achieve everything in one go. We can go piecemeal. Okay, even if we go piecemeal, we will be able to achieve. So stay positive. That's one thing. As a concluding remark onto that, coming on to Minister of Education, love to do that. And the only thing that I would want to start with is, before I make my remark, let me make this clear to everybody. Whatever amount of spending, whatever kind of policy, whatever infrastructure we put in place, unless we have the right kind of teachers delivering these, nothing is going to be achieved. So what we need to do is to recognize these teachers, to get them the respect that they need, and they do it. So if I were to be the minister, I would make them the first class citizens of the world. Okay, get back to the gurukulas. We, you know, the students or the followers used to touch their feet. Why can't we do that? Instead of just saying high five. That's what's happening in the US. Okay. Why can't we touch their feet? And you do that once, the teacher's going to love you. Teacher's going to work for you. She's going to do whatever she can do. So let's give them the respect that they deserve. That's one thing. But with this, to all the panelists, I have a humble request. Neeraj sir, the other panelists, I would want to share with you something. Okay. I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to achieve something, and I'll be very happy if you all could help me, reach that point. So let me just share the screen for a second. Okay. So what I'm trying to do here is, just to say this is the company that I represent, but I want to bring in something where we recognize all educationists. See, understand, all doctors have a DR written before as a prefix. All engineers have a ER written before them. All chartered accountants have a CA written with them. Why can't we have an ED written before all our educators? Let's somehow go and get this respect for it. Let us be recognized. If we are recognized, we will always do our best. So let's get this thing done. Let's get the world know that this particular person is an educator. Let that respect come in. The best of people will join education industry. See, a lot of time we've always said that why is it that if I have no other profession I become a teacher? No, I should be teaching by choice, and I will do that. One, if I'm paid well, which is very important, but also if I'm respected equally. One of the earlier panelists did talk about this. Okay, they should be at par with the engineers or the chartered accountants or the doctors or the professionals. So let us give that status. Today, with what happened during the pandemic, when they were the only ones who were struggling, doing double the time and not being paid, was something which was not expected. So now is the time to go deep down there, give them the respect that they have. So I would request all of you, if you could start using an ED as a prefix with you and with your team somewhere, this will gain momentum, and this is for the benefit of our fellow teachers. Thank you, Rajuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and you're receiving a great thumbs up for this. So mission is on the way.
Thank you.
Jaswinder sir, now with this, I would request Neeraj sir, if I may request you for your concluding remark, and what would be your priority, which you would like to implement if you become Minister of Education?
I had already done once when I became Prime Minister. I put everybody to jail who did the tuitions. But the real thing, I mean, related to that only, I will say that we have to now make a law how many hours a student has to sit in classrooms. Because whether he's going for coaching, whether he's here, the same child is suffering. And this nonsense has to stop for the mental well-being of this country. These children are completely exhausted. What they are learning in coaching institutes or tuition centers is how to crack particular exam. They are not learning subjects. That should be left to schools. And we must trust the teachers in the school. The parents have to trust the child, that child will learn to think, learn to analyze, learn to have critical thinking, if allowed to think critically. Neither that is happening with this present system of teaching and learning in the classroom, nor that is happening in the tuition center. So I'm sorry that. And second, along with that, I'll say 2 hours of games every day compulsory for all, including the lady teachers and the gentlemen and the students. Because I find that teachers are not able to connect with children today because they do not play. They do not interact with children in an informal situation. Now, the play could not only be on the games field. You may not be fit enough, or you may be old, you may have some physical this thing, but why can't you be on the stage? Why can't you be in the music class? Why can't you be in some trip on the adventure trip? You need to connect with children outside the four walls of the classroom in an informal environment. And for that, I'll make a compulsory rule for that. Games, I'll make sure that the teachers play. Because I found you connect with the child at the core level there. There are so many teachers come and complain about classrooms. My goodness. My goodness. How can you have problems in the classroom if you're connected with the children? And you connect in an informal environment. Teachers have lost that, and therefore I'm sorry to say, and I'm talking across the school, top, middle, or lower level. I'm talking across the schools in this country. We have
Uh, Neeraj sir, you are on mute now. Just a second back.
okay. I don't know, automatically happened. So
Yeah.
I'm saying that the value that we are talking about, the teachers will usko respect do. No, teachers will get that respect. There are teachers within schools now, we all know. Each of the principals sitting here, there are teachers who are respected and there are teachers who are not. by the children, by the parents. So we don't have to create something to get the respect. Teachers has to earn it. Teachers have to be compassionate, passionate about the job that he's or she's
Right.
doing. Must be proud that he's the teacher. Doesn't have to write Edu or Guru in front of that. I am the teacher, I am the master. And in fact, I'm not the teacher, I am the master. Because I do not just look after physics, I also look after the whole of the being that child is. So I am not an educator in that sense, I'm the guru, and I'm very proud of that. Even when I don't write anything, Mr. Singh, I know that what I am, and I convey it my ways to my children that I am your guru, nothing less. Every teacher has to be serious about what they do. They have to value what they are doing. They have to take pride in what they are doing. Unfortunately, the pride comes with money in this country, not with what you do. That is the problem. And probably the government has done enough. They are paying the teachers very, very well. So today's teachers starts at 40, 50,000, and every year the increment is pretty good. So they cannot complain today about the money. Private school, good private schools are paying the same amount and maybe more. So it's not the money anymore. It is us, teachers, who do
Right,
not
sir.
take our job seriously, who do not
Absolutely.
have the pride that I am the guru and I make this child what he is. I make the country. And that is what is important. If all of us think like that, nothing to worry about. About the new education policy, what is the takeaway? A lot of takeaway I've already spoken about. Time to implement and time to the principals and its teachers in small schools and small areas to go and implement. Nobody is stopping us.
Right, sir.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you are, as an education minister, you would be creating so many laws. I believe that you would also need additional charge of law ministry. Right, so thank you for that. Now I would,
I have had a lot of brushes with the law. Don't worry. I'm
right,
expert.
thank you. Thank you, sir. Now I would request Padmini ma'am, if I may request you for your concluding remark, and what would be
Yeah.
your priority if you get a chance to become Minister of Education?
Okay. Am I audible? For some reason, I've lost my video.
You're audible.
Okay, if I am made the Minister of Education, first I want to know whether it's for the state or for the Union Ministry.
So Union Ministry.
Okay, good. Okay, so it's bigger. So basically, I think we did speak a little bit about twinning and the rest of it. We have something in industries called corporate social responsibility. I think we'll have to first have something called institution social responsibility also. Because some of us are better endowed than the others. And it is not a privileged few that should actually look after themselves. It is important to share. And I think our gravest point here, and continuously that we've been kind of talking, is about how will this get implemented, even though it is a very beautiful vision. So the key is to implement, which means we need champions for this cause. We can't have ordinary mortals, to do this. At least in the implementing part of it, we will have a whole army of teachers and people and parents. So first thing is, I have to buy in people, which means we need champions who can go up and speak the right things to people about why we are making this, and not have a very narrow understanding of maybe it'll, and also very vocal people who will bring back the issues to the minister. So somebody who will bring truthfully something. So which means first I will have to choose a core team of champions for every state who will not be from bureaucracy alone, who will be the teaching community, people who are passionate teachers, people who are passionate principals, people who form, and parents who believe in education. I think stakeholders will have to be used in anything. If you want to implement, you got to buy in a lot of people. So the first thing is I will form a core team, which will include parents, teachers, and principals, plus maybe somebody else who can also fund us, basically, if it is required. If it is a digital platform that I'm looking, and somebody who can help the state. So unless I have a core champion group which can actually make the entire group aware of what is the need for a change and whether it is possible or not is the next part. So we need people at the ground level helping us not just disseminate the need of this kind of, a plan, but also who has the know-how of the plan and who has experienced the trouble of a teacher in a class or a student or a parent's viewpoint. Very often, sometimes we make policies or we are not able to implement simply because it's like somebody wanting a particular dish and not ever stepped into a kitchen. They don't know the trouble of a teacher. It's very easy to say a lot of things about a teacher. First of all, they will say, why can't you be a little more kind if a teacher loses her, a cool for a day? I ask my parents also, you have one child. You're not able to do it, keep a straight face all the time. You have to allow, it's not a job. Teachers don't do a job. It is a relationship for life that we build. And we cannot be compared to customer oriented, understanding, because we are not selling toothpaste. We are dealing with human minds who are very, very unique. So if I'm a minister, first I will find a core team with all the stakeholders in, so that we will have a proper route to create awareness. And then, of course, at each level, the biggest issue for us in India could be is reviewing what we are doing. We have to have very short, courses of review, so that anything that is not working, we will have to take a recourse. But most importantly, we can't again have a fit for all understanding here. We will have to remember there will be those affluent schools, the elite schools, whatever may be, the schools in the urban area, the schools in the township, the schools in the tribal areas. We will have to have different ways of implementing, which means the core group will have to also be with different people. And we cannot ever use a one fit for all business here. But the ethos or the essence of good education cannot change in whichever yuga you may be, whichever part of the planet you may be. The true education is not just sharpening intellect. It is about making intelligent human beings who will learn to live well and allow others to live well, look after the environment, look at sustainability as a process, and live as one more species and not human beings as something bigger than any other kind. But if you want, if we are ministers, then we have to have stakeholders who are at the ground level forming a committee.
Absolutely, absolutely. You're saying the document has been given, the vision has been provided, a time to build pillars and to strengthen them.
We
So
need
thank you. Thank you, Padmini ma'am, for that. And now I would request Kulkarni sir, before I go to Rakhi ma'am to summarize the session. Kulkarni sir, if I may request you for your concluding remark, and what would be your priority if you get a chance to govern or to make the policy as the education minister? Kulkarni sir.
Yeah. Firstly, I think the minister should follow what his government talks about: minimum government and maximum governance, right? And that so-called light and tight. I think they need to follow it in spirit, not and letter both. Number one. Number two, my advice to the present ministers: don't be on TV and Twitter every 5 minutes. Because when you come on TV, anything that you say should have a huge impact. And if you are available every second day on TV or on Twitter, then you lose that thing, right? So I think it is becoming counterproductive. Is regular this thing. He don't have to come and announce the CBSE date sheet himself every time. Leave it to the CBSE or whatever else. And the other thing which I would like to appeal to all my co-educators, because as I said, I'm an outsider in this field and I'm on the learning curve without baggage, is that we in the amongst educators look for too much of external validation. We want everybody